Welcome to Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas, the go-to podcast for aspiring and seasoned leaders in the quick service restaurant industry. Each week, we serve up actionable insights and proven strategies to help you lead smarter, build stronger teams, and elevate operations. Whether you're taking your first steps into leadership or refining your expertise, we're here to fuel your growth and spark big ideas. Let's dig in.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Riley.
How's it going?
We're good. We're good. And, I'm excited for this episode because we were talking, right, about the guest satisfaction and just reaction to guests and how we can really build the business back up because we've started losing some guest counts.
Yeah.
And that's not a fun place to be.
No.
So
we want to keep those guys.
We do want to keep those. And I think there's something to be said about the episode that we're going to dive into when it comes to just how we react to customers, right? Their feedback in general, maybe the issues that they're having or the issues that we're maybe presenting them with. And I'm excited to kind of just revel in that a little bit and figure out how we can make a difference.
Feedback is a gift, and it keeps on giving, right? Sometimes we don't want to take that feedback, but it's important to act on it, not necessarily take it to heart. If there's some of those, complaints that come through or feedback that comes through that's maybe mean or aggressive.
Sure.
You don't want to internalize that, but what's the root cause of their problem or their feedback?
Yeah, and there's so many avenues for feedback nowadays, and I know that we can get caught into the feelings behind that, and I think as a leader in our industry, we have to be able to differentiate between those two, right? Like we can't take this as a personal attack because we do. I used to. I used to.
Me too.
Oh man, they're attacking the way we are. They're attacking our people. They're attacking.
We don't do that. Get defensive about it. Where it's really what is the root cause? Why are they sharing that feedback? And can we look into it some more?
Absolutely. So in today's episode of Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas, right, we're going to tackle this. And we're going to tackle it in a way where I think just as we go through this episode, really think about how we are reacting to the feedback. And from there, what are we doing with that feedback? I was reading this book called Excellence in Service, and it talked a lot about just the culture piece of who we are and what we're trying to do. And I really enjoyed it, right? Like the book was talking about ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
And it was interesting because as we're looking at just the way that guests are, right? Because the customer's always right. Right? Like we always kind of have that mantra. And I think in the hospitality industry, it's true that the customer is always right. Now, how they ordered may be wrong, right? Like what they wanted, maybe they didn't quite say. Maybe there were some issues along the way, right? As far as accuracy goes or whatever else goes. But we still have to treat our customers with dignity and grace. And we have to treat them like ladies and gentlemen, even if sometimes they're not acting like ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just going to bring up Karen,
Sure. Poor Karen.
What's the male version? Ken? I think it's
is that
Ken.
What it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So right. Karens and Kens, those guys still deserve respect.
They do.
And I think the more we do that, the more we show them, we're slowly chipping away at their belief in us or our performance, our value, and we're showing that, hey, we're here.
Yeah, because you're going to have dissatisfied guests.
Yeah.
Like I think as we're kind of going through, like there's three different buckets of guests. There's going to be dissatisfied guests, right? You're going to have satisfied guests, and then you're going to have loyal guests. And when you're talking about the ones, because there are, right? Like we focus on like the one or two that you can't please ever. They're always going to be dissatisfied, almost regardless of what you do. But we still have to treat them, and we still have to do everything we can to deliver as much as we can with that excellent service. And I think sometimes we get so ingrained in doing the opposite, right, that we don't always hold ourselves to that higher standard. So I think when you're working with those types of customers, right, when you're trying to help them with the service that they've expected, they just might be expecting more. They might have had different expectations than what they're being delivered. So I think bigger conversations around that rather than just dismissing them as that Karen.
Oh, Karen was in again. Yeah, she complained about whatever. Instead of doing that, what can you pick out of that to share with the team and say, hey, this person came in, they weren't they weren't expecting our service.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do, and maybe even as a team debrief that and say, okay, let's reevaluate.
Right. Well, we were an assistant. We had a training class for our assistants last week at the office, and we were running through different scenarios where they were role playing with customers or feedback or whatever it was. And one of the roles or the scenario is, hey, I've had slow service, right? The customer, I've had slow service. What are you going to do about it? And the manager right away replied with, I'm sorry, we're short staffed. However, right, your food is on its way. Well, I think right then and there you're pulling a little bit of a trigger for, at least for me, when I heard that you're short staffed. Well, that's not a me customer problem.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's not my issue.
Karen would say, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care that you're short staffed. I just want to know what you're going to do to make it right. Right. So the excuses part of this, like we don't need the excuses. We as customers just want to know what you're going to do to make it better or enhance it for the future. So hey, I'm sorry about your wait. It's going to be another 5. Like let's be honest, if it's going to be 5 minutes, tell them it's going to be 5 minutes. Right. Like it's going to be another 5 minutes, but then deliver on it. Right. Like sometimes we say that, and then all of a sudden the fries were cold or the burger wasn't made right.
I waited 10 more minutes and my food's still not up to standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they are going to wait, just give them updates then, right? If it's been 4 minutes, go run out there and say, hey, look, I apologize, but it's going to be another 4 minutes. There was unexpected whatever, right? But don't make excuses.
And be honest.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times I think they just want to be heard, and we'll have a future episode about, this stuff too, because I love being able to show customers and show our team that you can resolve all of these complaints and start turning them into satisfied guests and maybe even loyal guests by treating them like ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
You know?
And every time, but that's the thing, like every time they come and give you, because dissatisfied guests are not going to give you much of a chance. They're going to come in with a predetermined mindset of, hey, when I go to this particular restaurant, right, I'm going to get bad service. So we have to deliver consistently. And it can't just be once, right? It can't just be this fleeting, hey, I provided you good service one time, and all of a sudden we think that they're going to just continue coming to you, right? But as we continue delivering consistent, good service, excellent service, now all of a sudden we're talking more of that satisfied guests, right? We're talking the guests that, they're going to come to you, but maybe they're not loyal to you yet. So, like, in your opinion, what's that difference, the satisfied versus loyal?
Well, satisfied, I would just say, you had a good experience. But, personally, I'll go to different places. So when I think of loyalty, it's like I love that experience or that value so much that I'm going to pick that over all of my other options. And I think it depends on where you're located, because sometimes rural areas, there's only one option.
Sure. Yeah.
But say you're in a metropolitan area and all of a sudden you've got 10 options and you're on your lunch break. I got 30 minutes. I'm going to go to the shortest line.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as that decision for people. So how do we distinguish and how do we grab that satisfied guest and be like, no, you want to come to us because we've got it going on. We're fast, we're friendly, we're excellent, So I would say that's probably the difference. Satisfied is just, they had a good experience and they'll maybe come again, but they have options. Loyal is, I'm going to pick this brand because I want to and I like it.
Yeah. I would agree. I think the loyal guest would rather choose you, right? They'll go across town. I've heard this before, right? Like I come to you even though it's farther away. Like those are your loyal guests. Those are the ones that are going to go out to the community and say, hey, you should go here. Or, hey, okay, you had, like now all of a sudden they're talking to the dissatisfied guests. I get it, you had a bad experience, but they're actually really good people, right? Like maybe it was just a one-time thing. Give them another chance. They're the ones that are promoting your business. They're the ones that are maybe helping you have future employees even, right? I think there's a big difference between satisfied guests and loyal guests, right? The main objective here to really build those sales and guest counts is to help your satisfied guests become loyal guests, right? The satisfied guests, they're like craving for somebody to help them make that decision, right? And they're craving for us as a restaurant business to really deliver on the promise of the hospitality and the quality and the service and the cleanliness, right? Like they do, no matter what, like even whether you're rural or suburban, inner city, outer city, it doesn't matter. Like people have choices. Like I can make a sandwich at home, right? I can brew my coffee at home, or I can come to you for that sandwich and that coffee. So regardless, we have choices. The loyal guests are going to want to choose you.
They're going to come one see you. They're your friends. They're your regulars. Would be, I think, a good way to relate it too. Is loyal guests are the people that you see a lot in your restaurant.
Yep.
And I think it's also maybe important to point out there's loyalty to the brand and loyalty to the restaurant.
There is. Yep.
Because I'm an Apple fanatic. Apple as a brand, I love. So I'm always going to pick Apple. If somebody chooses Samsung, that's fine. That's their
Sure.
choice. But I'm loyal to Apple because of the value they give me. Now it'd be like if I choose a specific Apple store, right? Like, oh my gosh, the one in Naperville is great. I want to go there because that team has helped me before and they've given me good service and they're friendly and they're kind and all these things, right? So I might go buy my Apple products there, but not necessarily, the brand.
So I think that's a little bit to unpack there, right? As far as but what makes you loyal, right? Like in your head, right? And this is for anybody. As you think of the businesses that you're loyal to, what actually makes you loyal to them? Is it the people? Is it the product? Is it what? Because usually, I'm going to tell you, it's usually not the product.
Yeah.
I can get a burger anywhere.
Right.
Right? And honestly, they probably all taste pretty close, or maybe you have a little bit of a preference, but why loyal?
So we're talking a lot about how we can move our satisfied guests into loyal guests, right? And the product itself isn't necessarily how we choose or what brand we choose to be loyal to. So Eric, do you have anything, like any companies or any brands or any place that you like to go that you're loyal to just because you know what you're going to get?
Yeah, I think there's a few different places that would come to mind, but just for a specific example, two different folds, right? When I think of loyalty, I think of, okay, this is a brand and this is a company and this is a place, right? Ultimately, it's the place that I trust. So, after church on Sundays, we'll usually go down to Arrow House in Rockford. Well, first of all, they have good food, right? Like it's not like top tier, but it's decent food. I enjoy the food there. We enjoy the atmosphere. The kids always seem to like it, and the people are decent, right? But I know what to expect, and we've never had a bad experience there. And maybe if they forgot to put this on or that on or whatever, it's but they fix it right away. I've never had any actual issues with the service there. And I think there's something to be said there. As you're thinking about who you're loyal to, those little conflicts can start embedding themselves in and say, you know what, when I go there, they argue with me about this. Or, maybe the service wasn't quite there. Or maybe it just, I can't quite put my finger on it, but maybe the hospitality wasn't as good.
The vibe is off.
Yeah.
Just the vibe is off.
But when I go to this place, I don't feel that way. Right. So I think just as you're looking at your leadership style and your team, how do you differentiate? Because there's a lot of talk about market share. For those of you that are avid listeners or in the quick service restaurant industry, or really in any industry, we talk about market share, right? There's only so many people that are going to choose to go out to eat today. How do we capture as many as we can? In the Excellence in Service book, they talked about because the guy runs hotels, right? And he was a big market share around hotels. He said, hey, we're at 50% capacity when their goal was, say, 70%. Well, how come we were at 50%? All of a sudden, they started making excuses, right? Well, there was the weather, and there was this, and there was that. And the leader said, well, but the other room was at 50% capacity. How come they chose to go there rather than come to us? Because the people are still choosing to go out there.
They're making their decision.
Yeah.
And so how do we get them to choose us?
Exactly. Because all of a sudden now you're looking down the street and you're saying, okay, there's a hotel on my left or a hotel on my right. Which one am I going to go to, right? Or which restaurant am I going to go to? There's one on my left and one on my right. One has 5 cars in line and one has 0 cars.
And let's say they're relatively the same price.
Yeah.
Right? Take that out of it. Because cost is different. But which one are you going to choose? Oh, I've been to this one before. They're awesome. They take care of me. They're super responsive if I have questions. Yep. This one, they're okay, but I had a bad experience once, and I'm probably not going to go there. They're going to choose that one.
Absolutely.
It comes down to people.
It does. And what's funny is he was talking about an example of a snowstorm where he was at Ritz-Carlton. It was one of the chains that he ran at one time. And he said the Ritz-Carlton, the guy called, he was in a snowstorm, right? The hotels were getting booked up. He called the one, and they literally, because they were booked, he found them another hotel, though, right? Another room that was basically the same equivalent, if not better or closer, or whatever. And they literally went out of their way to get this customer a room at a different hotel.
Not their hotel.
Not their hotel.
Yeah,
but
that's crazy.
that
That's awesome.
loyalty all of a sudden, because he's going to remember that.
Oh,
right?
Ritz-Carlton helped me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The customer is, and that's what I'm saying, right? Like we have to build the loyalty around our guests. We have to go above and beyond. We have to be excellent in service. And we have to treat regardless of where that customer's at, right? We can do our best to give them that experience that they're really looking for. And just as we look to kind of move the conversation forward, there's so many avenues of feedback that we can get, right? And the best one, in my opinion, is when they're there in front of you, right?
Oh, easy.
When the customer's there in front of you, that's your chance to help either keep them to be a satisfied guest or to change them into a loyal guest. So just as far as avenues of feedback, did you have some things that you wanted to share?
Personally, I also like the in-person one because you get a lot more visual cues, body language, and you're able to really express, your excellence or your desire, your desire to make it right, all that good stuff. But there's also, just 800 complaints. So people call in, they don't want to talk to anybody in the restaurant. They're just calling in, right? Then there's the customer survey, SMG stuff, that they fill out a survey for. Either, if your brand offers some sort of coupon for that, that's their incentive. But as well as I do that those surveys, people only fill them out when things don't go right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm that guy. I hardly ever, I don't know if I've filled out more than 3 surveys in my lifetime. And there's been a few people that have asked, right?
Yeah.
And,
you're like,
you go everywhere and people are asking how to fill out surveys. But unless I'm impressed, I don't know if I ever actually fill out surveys.
And I was just going to say that they have to really wow me.
Yeah.
Or really go, not even just I'm not trying to make this sound like it's an unrealistic expectation of performance.
It's true.
It's not. It's just that the level standard plus above, right?
Yeah.
Just right above there is really all, respect, the kindness, the friendliness, all that, and then just go up a notch. And so if you ask me and I go down kind of like that checklist, okay, yep, they were nice, they were honest, they were authentic. Yeah, sure, I'll fill one out for you. Yeah. But if they don't ask, I'm not going to, even if it was a great experience, I'm not going to fill one out.
And I don't know if, is the wow experience really that hard though?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think sometimes we think that we have to we just have to be better. Little, you know what I mean? We just have to be a little bit better than our competition to help first of all, to help keep the satisfied guests. And then when you're going to wow them, right? Let's get the order right. Let's be nice. Let's pay attention. Let's make eye contact. Sometimes I think that wow factor, it's easier said than done. But we don't have to get so much in the weeds that we make it impossible. Because I think people are naturally looking to have good service.
Yeah. And I think as a person, right, if you're trying to improve on this hospitality metric, your customer feedback, you just have to be authentic, be yourself, try to find the ways to connect with people and make that eye contact where it's not as scary or awkward.
Yep.
And
I will tell you, to your point earlier, we have to ask for the feedback, right? And you have to. If you don't ask for feedback, you're only going to hear the negative, right? Because people like us, who we just said, won't necessarily fill out a survey unless we're asked and unless we're a little bit wowed, right? Yeah. You have to get that feedback. And if you don't, you're just looking for the negativity. And that's where all of a sudden we get dismissive of those things, right? They're never going to give us a 5. They're never going to tell us how great we are, right? They, instead of just owning that and saying, okay, how can I collect more feedback and then do something with it? There's so much data out there, right? Well, we have to improve on the quality of this, maybe our cleanliness, but we have to actually take the feedback and want the feedback and then do something with it.
That's the key right there, is doing something with it.
Yeah.
Because you can talk all day about good experiences, bad experiences, but at the end of the day, if you don't use that information to get better, then you're never going to move these satisfied guests to loyal guests at all.
It's true. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw some numbers out there, right? But the people who fill out the surveys, they want us to be better. They're telling us, they're giving us that chance. That's most likely a satisfied guest saying, hey, just do this a little bit better. Be a little bit more accurate.
So
be a little bit more better on the quality. Be a little bit nicer to me, right? Or be a little whatever that the satisfied guest is literally begging you to fix a few of these things. That way they can become a loyal guest. Because
a
I
great
don't know
way to put
about
it.
you, but like I'd rather go to the place that's 2 miles down the road from me and grab my coffee than to drive the extra 10 minutes or whatever that might be, because that place just can't get it right. Like people want us to be successful.
Yeah.
And that feedback to make this and help this be full circle, it is a gift. But we have to wrap our heads around the fact that like people want us to be able to deliver on our promise with the quality and the service and the value. And it's up to us, right, as leaders to really take that and do something with it. So I don't know, like the time is now, right?
Yeah.
Like let's take the feedback, let's consider it a gift, let's act on it, and let's help everybody be just that little bit better.
And that's just going to make your business run even better and more profitable, right? And we want people to enjoy coming to our restaurants. So that was a great conversation. Let's talk about how we react to our customer feedback and make sure we do something with it.
Yep.
All right. Listen, learn, and lead. We'll see you later.
Thanks for joining us on Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas. We hope today's episode inspired fresh ideas for your leadership journey. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and keep learning with us as we continue to explore leadership in the QSR world. Until next time, take care and lead well.